Picture it. You're learning tarot. It's maybe the second or third time you've tried to figure it out, and it's starting to make sense. You're forming some really deep and personal understandings and relationships with these cards, and it's starting to feel good. Your readings are starting to resonate with yourself and with others. And then you go to pull, and it's justice, and you draw a blank. Has that ever happened to you? Because it has definitely happened to me. When I was trying to learn tarot, justice was a card that I had to do a little more work to have a personal understanding of. And I find that to be true for a lot of people. And while I'm not a traditional tarot reader by any means, and don't really have a super traditional understanding of the card, I do still think that my relationship with the card and my understanding of tarot and justice in particular might have some value and hopefully some inspiration for your own journey to understanding and relating to the justice card. Hello and welcome back to It's Queer Magic. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kirbo. We talk about magic and tarot and witchcraft and queer stuff and anything that I think sounds cool. So if you like it, join us. It's very fun. Today, though, we are talking about the Justice card. And like I said, it seems to be a card that a lot of people get stuck on in the beginning of their journey. And I think, honestly, it's such a beautiful and useful, valuable experience that we go through when we're going through the cards of the tarot and learning the lessons. It is such a valuable card to speak about in times like these that are so revolutionary and so potentially revolutionary that I think it's really important that we talk about our concepts of justice. But ultimately, I do want this to be something that helps you utilize the tarot in your actual lives. So when you pull the Justice card, it's connected to something and you're able to have actionable steps that you can actually take into your life to utilize the lesson that spirit or whatever you work with the tarot is trying to teach you. Now, of course, I have to do a bit of a disclaimer because the tarot is the tarot. It is vast. It is unknowable to a certain degree in the sense that there are as many interpretations for any card as there are people that have ever been alive. I can say something about the tarot, you can completely disagree with me, and we can both be right? That's the circumstances. So please, I invite you to take what resonates with you, what is actually helpful, what is inspirational for you, and don't sweat the rest that doesn't make sense or doesn't vibe with you, because that doesn't mean you're wrong or a bad tarot reader. It might just mean that you have a different relationship with the cards than I do. So this is not the end all be all definition of the Justice card. When I think about justice, I really feel passionate about it and connected to it as a marginalized person, as a multi-marginalized person, as a Black person, as a queer person, as a fat person, as a trans person, right? As someone with an Indigenous experience. Like, this is something that is deeply tied to myself and to my ancestry. And the same is true for all of us, no matter who you are. So I hope that we can learn to understand the Justice card from my perspective as love in action. Justice is ruled by Libra, and Libra is ruled by Venus, a planet of beauty, a planet of love. But in that beautiful, pink, loving hue, there is a swatch of a color that is deeper red, that is blood red, because Venus is a planet of love and a little bit of planet of war. And if that intrigues you, I encourage you to go look up the lore of Venus in astrology, of Venus as a goddess and of Venus as the planet, and see what fits with you, see what inspires you. But love is at the root. Beauty is at the root. And then we look at this card and it is seemingly so cold, right? And distant. Because when we think of justice, we think of the law, we think of court systems, we think of wrongdoings. And I don't think that that's wrong. Let me be clear. I don't think that that's wrong. I think that using the Justice card to speak about legal issues, to speak about court issues, is something that is a super valuable tool, especially in specific marginalized communities that didn't have access and continue to not have access to legal assistance. And that makes those people that are able to divine those matters really valuable, right? So that is a skill that is necessary to learn in a lot of communities and for a lot of people. And it's not necessarily something that comes up a lot for me or my clients or the people I read for, but it is something that I don't want to overlook and say is like not the definition, because I do believe that it's actively actually helpful for a lot of people. But if that's not you, then maybe the other parts of this definition will help you. Because again, Libra, Venus, rules this energy, rules justice. So to me, that means that justice, like I said, is love in action. When we want to beautify something, when we want to pour love all over it, it really demands that we honor and respect the true nature of something, right? That truth comes to light and that wrongs are made right. And that can feel uncomfortable for a lot of us, right? It can feel uncomfortable, especially because there are so many systems in this world that mean that we benefit from other people's suffering, and it doesn't feel good. And so sometimes it makes it uncomfortable, to say the least, to investigate some of the things that justice might want to talk to us about. But I think that it's really worth it, because I think that it's a very healing and soul lightening experience to understand where you are, one, able to be held accountable, but two, able to make a difference, no matter if it's your fault or not. Justice, I really do think, asks you to let go of the fault part, to not dwell in the shame and the guilt, but to put your effort and energy into righting a wrong, into fixing something, into making an effort to bring something back into balance. And again, this is Libra, right? So justice a lot of times is like, you need more information. They have the beautiful power, Libra, not just Libra sun people, but Libra as an energy has the power to step back and see things with a really wide lens in order to make an informed decision. And that is really how it gets watered down into the stereotype for Libra sun people to be like people pleasers and just want to make everybody happy, right? That is really something that gets a bad rap because it comes from a place of having a need for balance. And balance and justice are the same thing. Because when a wrong has happened, it brings the cycle of things out of balance. And remember, when we're talking about justice, it has this scale on the card. And when the scale is out of balance, right, and you put something in this one, right, to bring it back into balance, it doesn't just go ding, balance, it swings. And it's moving. And that's really where I get the interpretation that it is in action and it is rooted in our actions. It's just like morality. Morality is not meant to be like an idea or a feeling or like a vibe, right? It's meant to be expressed through our actions. So if you're like, this is my moral and that's against my moral, it isn't against your moral unless you act on it. Because inaction means that you approve of it. Inaction means that you are not committed to the rebalancing of the wrong that you feel so strongly against. Justice is about the truth as well. They have on the card the scale, but they also are holding a sword. And the sword represents a clarity of mind. It represents the truth in action, the truth as your root and your guide. And so it does require learning about situations, trying to figure out more information, and then actively making moves and action to rebalance the world. There are so many pieces of our environment, of our systems, internally, interpersonally, governmentally, that are out of balance and have been out of balance for a while. And we are feeling so many of the repercussions of that imbalance. And we are trained to look at imbalance and think that's not my fault, it's not my problem. But ultimately, we are suffering from it. When you have a morality or a moral that you feel is wrong and you don't act on it, it turns into an internal spiritual sickness. It is a hole inside of you that will continue to eat away at you until you are nothing. And in that sense, justice is trying to love you. It's trying to save you. It's trying to pour love and beauty all over you by bringing you back into a cycle, bringing you back into the system of support that is life on earth. And there are many pieces of our world and many pieces of our government and our society that don't function that way, right? That do not function in a way that is in balance with the reality of our relationship to the planet and its inhabitants. And we all feel the effects of that. And so, while all of those things are like big, major thoughts, I do think that when we are pulling the justice card for ourselves or for other people, it's on the table, that it actively is asking you what you're going to do about what is wrong, about what is out of balance. It's asking you to see the bigger picture and to make an effort to bring it back into right relationship, right? Bring it back into right relationship. A very easy example to explain is our relationship with the land, right? Our relationship with the land is meant to be the system, the balance system is meant to be that we are kin, that we are related, that is our mother and our cousin and our siblings and our child. It is all of us, right? And it will provide for us, providing that we actively provide for it. It is a never ending cycle of support if we pay attention to it, right? If we fulfill our role as a species on the planet. And again, another big idea, but all of these things are really connected to what justice could talk about, even at the smallest point, because it could be talking about a friend issue. It could be talking about something inside of you that is holding something against you that is causing you internal turmoil and causing you to act out of character or causing you to suffer in your life. And of course, not all suffering is because you've done something or the ancestors did something or somebody did something. There's suffering that's manufactured, right? Suffering that is put upon us. And it's not like fate. This just doesn't work that way. It's not fated that you're suffering. So many of the circumstances on this planet are like literally because chaos rules and literally because anything can happen when we get here. And there's so many free wills clashing with each other. Like, yes, suffering is life. Life is suffering. There's no way about it. But some of it is just because we are being called, right? Because something is out of balance, because people in the past and people in the present are actively working to keep something out of balance, there is suffering. We're not suffering because we're called to fix it. We're called to fix it because we're suffering. And when we suffer, the rest of the planet suffers because we're connected. And so again, bringing it back, when justice is on the table, what is it asking you? It's asking you to take a bigger look, to get more information about the situation, to investigate where there has been a wrong, and to stick yourself and your courage to the place where it can be used in action. It says, be so for real with yourself and do the right thing. And there's a time and a place for discussing what the right thing is and right versus wrong and gray area and all these big ideas. Absolutely. But I don't necessarily think that it's when justice is on the table. It's not necessarily urgent, although sometimes and a lot of times it can be urgent. But it's because they're calling you to sense in yourself the real right from wrong in any given situation. You rooted in your internal truth and your personal truth. And it asks you, again, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do because of it? What are you called to do in this world because this thing is out of balance? And it's not always going to be talking about the big stuff. Like I said, sometimes it's talking about your personal life. Like, this was messed up. What are you going to do? It is a call to align yourself and your courage with the pull of liberation that courses through your veins, no matter who you are. But if you are here and you are queer, hey, you felt it before. You felt it before. When you had to admit to yourself that you were not straight, that you were probably queer. If you've come out of the closet, that is you answering that call and putting your courage in that place where it was actionable to say, it's not right for me to live against my grain. And so I have to speak. Right? I have to say something. That was you experiencing justice, even if the circumstances were not, or the outcome was not preferred, or not what you wanted to be, or not what you hoped it to be. It was still you seeking justice and doing justice as love in action. And if you can remember that you have overcome that feeling and that you didn't die, that maybe you can look at all of the other places in the world that that feeling inside of you is calling to action, to do something about. And maybe you can put your courage there. You can finally do something about it because you've done it before. A lot of us, when we come out, think that that's like the pinnacle of liberation and we're free, when really it's the very first step. And there's so much more that you have to learn and unlearn about who you are and why you think the things that you think, and how to find a way to think what you really think and to find what you really believe. It's really a longer journey that is rooted in justice. And that's why I see justice as such a queer card, connected to all marginalized identities, but definitely queer. Think about all of the liberation movements, the movements for justice throughout history. There have been queer people a part of them, a part of every big movement. There were queer people. Whether or not they were included in the final resolution is up for debate, and on each individual call, I would say ignored. Although some of the movements are specifically talking about queer people and queer rights, so of course that was not something that they were ignored in. But it happens, right? That we as queer people, our needs and our rights were sort of backburnered in order to achieve something else, even though we were fighting with them, fighting for them, the leaders of it a lot of times, right? But it's an inherently queer experience. And not all of us accept that. Not all of us hear that call. And definitely not all of us surrender to that call. Some of us really stuff it down or try to pretend that it's something that it isn't, and try to pretend that we can run from it forever and it will never catch up to us. And that is not true, because it will. Oh, it will. It will. You will not feel good. Why aren't you sleeping? Like, why do you have to stuff all of your feelings down? Because if you unplug some of them, you're going to turn into experiencing guilt, experiencing shame. And I understand that it's so easy, it's so tempting to fall into the call of cowardice and think that it's safety, but it really isn't. It really isn't. Justice tells us that to leave the situation untucked or untouched is absolutely keeping you in danger. It may feel safe now, but it will not end up being safety. So the risk that's involved with going after justice and going after balance is worth it in the end, from my perspective. And you'll have to make that decision for yourself, but I think that it's worth it. So again, when justice is on the table, it is a call to action. Is it a call? It is a call to see what has not been correct, what wrongs have been done, to get the full picture, more pieces of information of the story, and then to act on it. It says, be love in action. Do love in real life, in action, and see where that gets you, because it likely will free you. And when it does, and you taste that liberation, you're able to turn around and share that liberation with others. And then we bring all of us as a planet, as a species, as family into a liberated, equitable future. And that's how I see the Justice card. I hope that was helpful for you. I definitely waxed on a little bit, but I'm passionate about this card. I'm passionate about the topic. And we are in a time in our lives where there's so much that finally has eyes on it. So many wrongdoings that have the possibility and the probability of being made right. But we need you. We need all of us to find our niche, to find our area, to find our space in this world, to make a change, to do something, to speak, to act, and not just to feel and think. Feeling and thinking are so important and vital, right? But it needs to lead to action, or the balance will be off kilter forever. And when we do that, when we keep these two ends of the circle separate from each other, even though they desperately want to connect, when we force them apart, it only lasts so long, because eventually it gets so hot in our hands. The situation gets so unlivable that we are forced to let go, and that circle will slam closed. So that's why I think that liberation is inevitable. It is the only way that we survive here. And the Justice card really is trying to love you. So if you find yourself confused still, continue to pull the card. And when you pull the card, ask yourself a couple questions. Ask yourself, okay, the Justice card is here. Pull more cards, not just ask yourself, pull more cards and ask, what wrong is this speaking of? And how can I make it right? Where is my place in the making it right? And see what comes up for you. I think that it's a powerful card for a powerful time, and it can be used to empower you to act. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any interpretations or ideas about the Justice card, I would love to hear them. I love talking about tarot and I love everybody's opinions. So please let me know. If there are other tarot cards that you'd like to go over or you'd like to hear my opinions about, let me know down below and I will definitely see if I can make a video about it. Thank you so much to my patrons. The Rainbow Witches, you guys rule. Thank you so much, my angel babies. It's been really fun. It's been a wonderful year, and I can't wait to spend another year together doing our tarot parlors and our tarot studies and our meditations and everything. It's been a blast. See you around in the Discord. If that sounds good to you and you want to join us, you know where the links are. The links live below. And if you liked this video and you want to give me a like, thanks. If you don't and you want to give me a like, thanks. And if you want to be notified when I upload, you know how YouTube works, just subscribe and we'll hang out, okay? Thanks so much. Take care of yourselves. Let yourself be courageous. It's worth it. I love you.